Once upon a time, an American neo-Western crime drama television series was created by Vince Gilligan, but nobody could have ever imagined that one day it would become the highly acclaimed series we all know today as Breaking Bad. But how did Breaking Bad become such a popular television series? And how did it acclaim such a cult following? Is it true that the cast is full of comedians? Is Wendy, the hooker, really much healthier in real life? Is it true that the White family is actually a real family home? And do tourists to this day still throw pizzas on top of the roof? Does Breaking Bad really help beat addiction? Has New Mexico really profited from Breaking Bad? It's time for me to answer all these questions and more, since this is ASMR. Aaron, back at it again with another daily video to help you relax. So lay back and enjoy the ride. I hope this video gets you through your day, or even better, I hope this read helps you gently fall asleep. I can't wait to get started. This is the tale of Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad aired on AMC from January 20th, 2008 to September 29th, 2013, consisting of 5 seasons for a total of 62 episodes. It was set and filmed in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and tells the story of Walter White, Bryan Cranston, as an underemployed and depressed high school chemistry teacher who was struggling with a recent diagnosis of stage 3 lung cancer. White turns to crime, partnering with his former student Jesse Pinkman, Aaron Paul, by producing and selling crystallized methamphetamine to secure his family's financial future before he dies, while navigating the dangers of the criminal underworld. The title is a Southern colloquialism meaning to turn to a life of crime. Gilligan characterized the series as showing Walter's transformation from a soft-spoken Mr. Chips into Scarface. Among the show's co-stars are Anna Gunn and R.J. Mitty as Walter's wife Skyler and son Walter Jr., and Betsy Brant and Dean Norris as Skyler's sister Marie Schrader and her husband Hank, a DEA agent. Others include Bob Odenkirk as White and Pinkman's sleazy lawyer Saul Goodman, Jonathan Banks as a private investigator and fixer Mike Ehrmantraut, and Giancarlo Esposito as drug kingpin Gus Fring. The final season introduces Jesse Plemons as the criminally ambitious Todd Alquist, and Laura Frazier as Lydia Rodart Quayle, a business executive secretly managing Walter's global meth sales for her company. Breaking Bad is widely regarded as one of the greatest television series of all time. It had moderate viewership in its first 3 seasons, but the 4th and 5th seasons saw a significant rise in viewership when it was made available on Netflix just before the 4th season premiere. By the time that the series finale aired, it was among the most watched cable shows on American television. The show received numerous awards, including 16 Primetime Emmy Awards, 8 Satellite Awards, 2 Golden Globe Awards, 2 Peabody Awards, 2 Critics' Choice Awards, and 4 Television Critics Association Awards. Cranston won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series 4 times, while Aaron Paul won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series 3 times. Anna Gunn won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series twice. In 2013, Breaking Bad entered the Guinness World Records as the most critically acclaimed show of all time. Better Call Saul, a prequel series featuring Odenkirk, Banks, and Esposito reprising their Breaking Bad roles, debuted on AMC on February 8, 2015, and has been renewed for a final 6th season. The sequel film, El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie starring Aaron Paul, was released on Netflix and in theaters on October 11, 2019. Set in Albuquerque, New Mexico, between 2008 and 2010, Breaking Bad follows Walter White, a meek high school science teacher who transforms into a ruthless player in the local methamphetamine drug trade. Driven by a desire to provide for his family after being diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, initially making only small batches of meth with his former student Jesse Pinkman in a rolling meth lab, Walter and Jesse eventually expand to make larger batches of a special blue meth that is incredibly pure and creates high demand. Walter takes on the name Heisenberg to mask his identity. Because of his drug-related activities, Walter eventually finds himself at odds with his family, the Drug Enforcement Administration, through his brother-in-law Hank Strader, the local gangs, the Mexican drug cartels, and the regional distributors, putting his life at risk. Breaking Bad was created by Vince Gilligan, who spent several years writing the Fox series The X-Files. Gilligan wanted to create a series in which the protagonist became the antagonist. Television is historically good at keeping its characters in a self-imposed stasis so that shows can go on for years or even decades, he said. When I realized this, the logical next step was to think, how can I do a show in which the fundamental drive is toward change? He added that his goal with Walter White was to turn him from Mr. Chips into Scarface. Gilligan believed the concept of showing the full drastic transformation of a character across the run of a television show was a risky concept and would be difficult to pitch without other powerful factors to support it, such as strong cinematography and acting. The show title is a Southern colloquialism meaning, among other things, raising hell, and was chosen by Gilligan to describe Walter's transformation. According to Time Entertainment editor Lily Rothman, the term has a broader meaning and is an old phrase which connotes more violence than raising hell does. The words possess a wide variety of nuances. To break bad can mean to go wild, to defy authority, and break the law, to be verbally combative, belligerent, or threatening, or, followed by the preposition on, to dominate or humiliate. The concept emerged as Gilligan talked with his fellow X-Files writer Thomas Schnauz regarding their current unemployment and joked that the solution was for them to put a meth lab in the back of an RV and drive around the country cooking meth and making money. After writing the concept for the show and pilot, Gilligan pitched it to Sony Pictures Television, who became very interested in supporting it. Sony arranged for meetings with the various cable networks. Showtime passed on this, as they had already started broadcasting Weeds, a show with similarities to the premise of Breaking Bad. While his producers convinced him that the show was different enough to still be successful, Gilligan later stated he would not have gone forward with the idea had he known about Weeds earlier. Other networks like HBO and TNT also passed on the idea, but eventually FX took interest and began initial discussions on producing the pilot. At the same time, FX had also started development of Dirt, a female-centric crime-based drama series. And with 3 existing male-centric shows already on the network, FX passed up Breaking Bad for Dirt. One of Gilligan's agents spoke to Jeremy Ellis, the director of original programming for AMC, who was looking for more original shows to add alongside their upcoming Mad Men. Ellis was intrigued, and soon a meeting was set up between Gilligan, Ellis, and 2 programming executives. Gilligan was not optimistic about this meeting, fearing they would just put him off, but instead all 3 showed great interest. And the meeting ended up establishing how AMC would acquire the rights from FX and set the pilot into production. It took about a year following this meeting before Sony had set up the rights with AMC and production could start. Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan cast Bryan Cranston for the role of Walter White based on having worked with him in the Drive episode of the science fiction television series The X-Files, on which Gilligan worked as a writer. Cranston played an anti-Semite with a terminal illness who took series co-protagonist Fox Mulder, David Duchovny, hostage. Gilligan said the character had to be simultaneously loathsome and sympathetic, and that Bryan alone was the only actor who could do that, who could pull off that trick. And it is a trick. I have no idea how he does it. AMC officials, who were initially reluctant with the casting choice, having known Cranston only as the over-the-top character Hal on the comedy series Malcolm in the Middle, approached actors John Cusack and Matthew Broderick about the role. When both actors declined, The executives were persuaded to cast Cranston after seeing his X-Files episode. Cranston contributed significantly to the formation and development of the Walter White persona. When Gilligan left much of Walter's past unexplained during the development of the series, the actor wrote his own backstory for the character. At the start of the show, Cranston gained 10 pounds to reflect the character's personal decline and had the natural red highlights of his hair dyed brown. He collaborated with costume designer Kathleen DeToro on a wardrobe of mostly natural green and brown colors to make the character bland and unremarkable, and worked with makeup artist Frida Valenzuela to create a mustache he described as impotent and like a dead caterpillar. Cranston repeatedly identified elements in certain scripts where he disagreed with how the character was handled, and went so far as to call Gilligan directly when he could not work out disagreements with the episode screenwriters. Cranston has said he was inspired partially by his elderly father for how Walter carries himself physically, which he described as a little hunched over, never erect, as if the weight of the world is on this man's shoulders. In contrast to his character, Cranston has been described as extremely playful on set, with Aaron Paul describing him as a kid trapped in a man's body. Aaron Paul's casting was also initially questioned by production, as Paul looked too old and too much like a pretty boy to be associated with meth cooking. However, Gilligan reconsidered Paul's skills after seeing his audition and recalling he had also guest starred on the X-Files episode Lord of the Flies. Gilligan originally intended for Pinkman to be killed at the end of Breaking Bad's first season in a botched drug deal as a plot device to plague Walter White with guilt. Gilligan said by the second episode of the season, he was so impressed with Paul's performance that it became pretty clear early on that it would be a huge, colossal mistake to kill off Jesse. Similarly, Dean Norris had shown his ability to be a law enforcement official in the X-Files episode, F. Immaculata, and was brought on to be Hank Schrader, Walter's brother-in-law and DEA agent. Main characters: Bryan Cranston as Walter White, a chemistry teacher who, shortly after his 50th birthday, is diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer and turns to making meth to secure his family's finances. As his shady business progresses, Walter gains a notorious reputation under the name of Heisenberg. Cranston stated that, though he enjoyed doing comedy, he decided he should really focus on doing something else. But I think any drama worth its weight always has a sprinkling of comedy in it, because you can ease the tension to an audience when it's necessary, and then build it back up again. Walt White has no clue he's occasionally funny, but as an actor, I recognize when there are comedic moments and opportunities. Anna Gunn as Skylar White, Walter's wife, who is pregnant with their second child before his diagnosis and who becomes increasingly suspicious of her husband after he begins behaving in unfamiliar ways. Gunn sees Skylar as grounded, tough, smart, and driven. Gunn sees Skylar's stalled writing career as her biggest dream, saying, "I think she really deep down yearns to be an artist and to be creative and productive." Aaron Paul is Jesse Pinkman, Walter's cooking partner and former student. Paul sees Jesse as a funny kid. He's just this lost soul. I don't think he's a bad kid. He just got mixed in the wrong crowd. Paul elaborated on the character's background, saying he doesn't come from an abusive, alcoholic background. But maybe he just didn't relate to his father. Maybe his father was too strict and too proper for Jesse. Paul compared the character's relationship with Walt to The Odd Couple. Dean Norris as Hank Schrader, Marie's husband, Walter and Skylar's brother-in-law, and a DEA agent. At the beginning of the series, Hank was intended to be the comic relief. Norris, who has played several policemen before in film and television, stated, "Having played so many cops, I've talked with a lot of technical advisors, so I've been able to pick up a lot. Coincidentally, one of my best friends growing up is a cop in Chicago, and one of my other best friends out in LA is a sheriff. So I get to see all the components of that culture." Betsy Brandt as Marie Schrader, Skylar's sister and Hank's kleptomaniac wife. Brandt described Marie as an unpleasant bitch, but also stated there was more to her than that. I think we're seeing more of it now that she would be there for her family, but it's all about her. R.J. Mitty as Walter White Jr., Walter and Skylar's son, who has cerebral palsy. He begins lashing out after Walter's cancer announcement. Like Walter Jr., Mitty has cerebral palsy, although his is a milder form. Mitty stated he had to regress from his therapy to portray the character, staying up late into the night to slur his speech and learning to walk on crutches so his walking would not look fake. Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman, recurring Season 2, main cast Season 3 through 5. A crooked strip mall lawyer who represents Walt and Jesse. Odenkirk drew inspiration for Goodman from film producer Robert Evans. I thought about Robert Evans because I've listened to The Kid Stays in the Picture on CD. He's constantly switching up his cadence and his delivery. He emphasizes interesting words. He has loads of attitude in almost every line that he says. So when I rehearse the scenes alone, I do my impersonation of Robert Evans to find those moments and turns. Then I go out and I do Saul. Giancarlo Esposito as Gustavo Gus Fring, recurring Season 2, main cast Season 3 through 4, a Chilean high-level drug distributor who has a cover as an owner of the fast food chain Los Pollos Hermanos. Esposito stated that for the third season, he incorporated his yoga training in his performance. Gus is the coolest cucumber that ever walked the earth. I think about Eddie Olmos way back in Miami Vice. He was like dead. He was hardly breathing. I thought, how is this guy just standing in this fire and doing nothing? Gus has totally allowed me that level of flexibility and relaxation. Not because he has ultimate power and he knows he can take someone's life. He's just confident. Jonathan Banks as Mike Ehrmantraut, guest star Season 2, main cast Season 3 through 5, Part 1. Works for Gus as an all-purpose cleaner and hitman, and also works for Saul as a private investigator. The character of Mike has been compared to Harvey Keitel's Winston Wolfe character in Pulp Fiction, which Banks says he is not trying to emulate. I immediately tried to put it out of my mind, quite honestly. His cleaner ain't my cleaner. But throughout this world, you would suspect there had been a great many cleaners, whether government-run or individual contractors. Laura Frazier as Lydia Rodart Quayle, recurring Season 5, Part 1, main cast Season 5, Part 2. A high-ranking employee of Madrigal Electromotive is a former associate of Gus Fring. She reluctantly begins supplying Walt and Jesse with methylamine and helps Walt expand his operation overseas. Jesse Plemons as Todd Alquist, recurring Season 5, Part 1, main cast Season 5, Part 2, an employee of Vominos Pest Control who becomes an associate of Walt and Jesse. Breaking Bad has been accused by some members of law enforcement and the legal community of normalizing or glorifying methamphetamine usage. Some point to statistics suggesting that meth usage was at a low point in 2006, just before the series premiered, but that it has increased since then. However, it is more likely that it was because in 2006, federal laws were passed making it harder to acquire the chemical precursors for making methamphetamine. Breaking Bad premiered on the same night as both NFC and AFC championships in the 2008 NFL playoffs, an international decision by AMC hoping to capture the adult male viewership immediately following the planned end of the NFC game. However, the game ran into overtime, cutting into the show's time slot in most of America. As a result, the pilot had only about 1.4 million viewers. Coupled with the ongoing writer's strike, the first season did not draw as large of a viewership as they were expected. However, with subsequent seasons, viewership increased, avoiding the usual trend of downward viewership that most serialized shows had. Ratings further increased by the fourth season as, prior to airing, the previous seasons had been added to Netflix, boosting interest in the show. Breaking Bad is considered the first such show to have a renewed burst of interest due to the show being made available on Netflix. The second half of the final season saw record viewership, with the series finale reaching over 10.3 million viewers. Breaking Bad was originally meant to be shot in California, but the location was ultimately changed to Albuquerque, New Mexico. That change of setting has certainly been a boom for the New Mexico tourism industry. Local businesses have taken advantage of the hit show's worldwide popularity and cashed in by producing all manner of Breaking Bad-related products. These include blue meth candy, blue meth donuts, locally brewed Heisenberg dark beer, custom-made Heisenberg Pez dispensers, as well as more traditional trolley and Segway tours. An Albuquerque clinic, the Sage Neuroscience Center, is using the show's popularity to help get the new Mexicans off narcotics. The state has the highest rate of addiction in the U.S. By sharing their stories of addiction, entrants have the chance to win one of two Breaking Addiction scholarships, which entitle them to 12 weeks of free rehabilitation treatment worth thousands of dollars. Far from being a drug baron's digs or even a building dreamt up by Vince Gilligan, Walter White's house in Breaking Bad has been the real-life home of a woman called Fran since 1973. Julia Mineski, the actress who played the role of Wendy S. from 2008 to 2010, has run the Hawaii Ironman 6 times, the Germany Ironman once, and countless marathons. Breaking Bad is packed with funny men, even if they're not always given the chance to show it. Bob Odenkirk, Saul, is well known as the co-creator of US TV's last great sketch series, Mr. Show. Bill Burr, Kubi, is a stand-up comic, as well as Lavelle Crawford, Huel. Stephen Michael Quezada, Poor Gomi, and Javier Grajera, Gus Fring's boss at the cartel, and the man who put a severed head on a tortoise. And before he was a struggling actor, Bryan Cranston spent several months as a floundering comedian. And so ends the tale of the popular television series, Breaking Bad, that continues to be watched by millions of fans across the world.